Have you ever wondered if love can find us, even when we've stopped searching for it? Can a heart, hardened by loneliness, be touched again? This is the extraordinary story of Shadow, a streetwise tabby cat who believed he was destined to walk the world alone, until one snowy evening brought him face to face with a fragile soul who would change his life forever. Shadow wasn't your typical stray. His piercing amber eyes, marked by a life of survival, held a depth that hinted at untold stories. His black, scruffy fur bore the marks of countless battles, a badge of his resilience. For years, he had roamed the streets of a quiet, snow-covered town, dodging dangers, scavenging for scraps, and curling up under a weathered park bench to endure another cold night. He had grown used to his solitary existence, believing that love and warmth were luxuries for others, not for him. But on this particular winter evening, as snowflakes danced under the glow of the park's streetlights, Shadow's world was about to change in a way he never expected. Shadow's life hadn't always been so bleak. He once knew what it felt like to belong. An elderly woman, kind and gentle, had taken him in as a kitten, feeding him scraps from her meals and calling him her little tiger. Her laughter and the warmth of her lap had been his whole world. But when she moved away to live with her family, Shadow was left behind. Confused and heartbroken, Shadow found himself on the unforgiving streets. He quickly learned that survival required sharp instincts and a hardened heart. The town, with its bustling streets and indifferent passers-by, wasn't kind to strays. Shadow avoided people, knowing that not everyone who reached out had good intentions. Instead, he relied on his wits to find food in dumpsters and shelter in the nooks and crannies of the town. Over time, Shadow became a master of solitude. He found a certain grim comfort in his routine, his amber eyes scanning the world with a mix of caution and resignation. But deep down, in the quietest corners of his heart, he longed for something more. One frosty evening, as the town grew still under a blanket of snow, Shadow prepared for another lonely night beneath his park bench. The air was biting, and his breath rose in wispy clouds. He curled into a tight ball, tucking his nose under his tail to conserve what little warmth he had. Just as he began to drift into a restless sleep, a faint, plaintive meow pierced the silence. Shadow's ears perked up, and his eyes flickered open. The sound was weak, almost drowned out by the rustling of the trees. He cautiously stretched and peered out from under the bench. There, shivering in the snow, was a tiny white kitten, her fur clinging to her fragile frame. Her wide, terrified blue eyes met Shadow's, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. The kitten let out another soft meow, her tiny body trembling with cold and fear. Shadow hesitated. His instincts told him to stay away. Survival meant looking out for himself. But something in her gaze stirred a memory of the kitten he once was, scared and alone. Without a second thought, Shadow stepped out from under the bench, his paws crunching softly in the snow. He approached her slowly, his movements deliberate and calm. She didn't run, too weak to move. Shadow lowered himself beside her, wrapping his weathered body around hers. His warmth enveloped her, and she let out a small, relieved sigh as her trembling began to subside. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, the kitten stirred in Shadow's embrace. Her blue eyes, now slightly brighter, gazed up at him with a mixture of curiosity and gratitude. Shadow gently nudged her, encouraging her to rise. He decided to name her Snow, a simple yet fitting name for the fragile creature who had appeared in the midst of a winter storm. Snow was too weak to walk far, so Shadow stayed by her side, patiently waiting until she could gather her strength. That morning, the two of them ventured together, Snow stumbling along as she followed Shadow's lead. Shadow felt something he hadn't in years, a sense of purpose. Protecting Snow became his mission, and in doing so, he discovered a part of himself he thought was long gone, his capacity to care and to love. In the days that followed, Shadow and Snow became inseparable. Snow clung to Shadow, trusting him implicitly. She followed him wherever he went, her small paws struggling to keep pace with his confident stride. Shadow taught her how to navigate the town, showing her the safest spots to scavenge for food and the warmest places to rest. Snow, in turn, brought a spark of joy back into Shadow's life. Her playful antics made him smile in ways he hadn't in years. She pounced on leaves, chased after shadows, and even tried to catch her own tail, tumbling over herself in the process. Shadow watched her with a mix of amusement and affection, occasionally joining in her games despite himself. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. For Shadow, Snow was more than just a companion. She was a reminder that even in the harshest of winters, warmth and love could still be found. Shadow and Snow had fallen into a rhythm, a quiet partnership against the challenges of street life. One morning, as the pair basked in a rare moment of winter sunshine under their park bench, they caught the eye of a passerby, a young woman named Mia. Mia had always loved animals, and something about the duo's contrasting colors, a sleek black tabby and a fluffy white kitten, struck her. She noticed their bond immediately, the way Shadow protectively nudged Snow closer to him when someone walked by, or how Snow would look to Shadow for reassurance before venturing even a few steps away. On a whim, Mia knelt a few feet away, speaking softly as she set down a small container of food. "Hey there," she said gently. "You look like you could use a good meal." Shadow was wary. Years of distrust couldn't be undone in an instant. He eyed Mia suspiciously, his body tense and ready to whisk Snow away at the first sign of danger. But Snow, with her innate curiosity and innocence, inched forward. She sniffed the air, her tiny nose twitching as the scent of food filled it. Mia stayed still, respecting their space. Snow took a hesitant bite, then another, her little tail flicking happily. Shadow, still cautious, eventually approached, his amber eyes fixed on Mia. For the first time in years, Shadow let himself take a chance, and with Snow beside him, he shared the meal Mia had offered. Mia began visiting the park regularly, bringing food and spending time near the cats. Each visit chipped away at Shadow's walls. She didn't try to force affection or capture them, simply sitting nearby and watching as they ate and played. Shadow started to feel something he hadn't in a long time: trust. One evening, as the temperature plummeted and the wind howled through the park, Mia arrived with a plan. She set down a soft, padded carrier, its interior lined with a fleece blanket. "I can't leave you out here," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. Shadow was hesitant, but Snow, ever trusting, stepped toward Mia. She rubbed against Mia's leg, purring softly. Shadow watched, his heart torn. He had always been a survivor, but now he had someone to think about. Snow deserved warmth, safety, and love, things he could never guarantee her out here. With a deep breath, Shadow made his decision. He stepped into the carrier alongside Snow, their small bodies curling together for comfort. Mia zipped it closed, her eyes misty with relief. For the first time in years, Shadow felt a strange, unfamiliar feeling: hope. Mia's home was a sanctuary filled with warmth, soft blankets, and the comforting hum of a fireplace. Snow, ever the explorer, immediately began investigating every nook and cranny. She pounced on Mia's slippers, darted under furniture, and even attempted to climb the curtains, her boundless energy bringing laughter to the once quiet home. Shadow, on the other hand, was more reserved. He watched from a corner, his amber eyes scanning the room with a mix of caution and curiosity. Mia gave him space, understanding that trust couldn't be rushed. She placed a bowl of food nearby and sat quietly, letting him come to her on his own terms. Over time, Shadow began to relax. He started venturing out of his corner, first to eat and then to explore the house alongside Snow. One evening, as Mia sat on the couch reading, Shadow surprised her by jumping up beside her. He didn't purr or nuzzle her, but the simple act of sitting near her was a monumental step. For Mia, seeing Shadow and Snow settle into their new life was a gift. She had always believed in the power of second chances, and watching these two souls find comfort and safety in her home affirmed that belief. As weeks turned into months, Shadow, Snow, and Mia became a family. The once scrappy Tabby who had spent years fending for himself now purred softly as Mia scratched behind his ears. Snow, whose playful energy had brightened both of their lives, would curl up between them on the couch, her tiny paws kneading the blanket. Shadow had changed. He still bore the marks of his past life, the torn ear, the faint scars, but his eyes no longer held the guarded look of a cat ready to flee. Instead, they reflected a quiet contentment. Snow, now thriving in her new environment, brought out the best in both Shadow and Mia. Mia often marveled at how the two cats complemented each other. Shadow's calm, protective nature balanced Snow's exuberance, while Snow's joy reminded Shadow to embrace life's lighter moments. Together, they filled the house with a warmth that only love could create. Shadow thought his life was destined to be one of loneliness and survival. But Snow and Mia proved that love has a way of finding us, even when we least expect it. Their story is a testament to resilience, trust, and the transformative power of connection. As Shadow curled up on the couch that evening, with Snow nestled beside him and Mia's hand resting gently on his back, he knew he was home. For the first time in years, he felt truly safe, truly loved. What about you? Have you ever witnessed a story like Shadow's, where love and second chances came out of nowhere? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories that inspire and uplift.